I'm Tatum Skipper, and welcome to Real Florida Magazine.
Welcome back. We've got a special program today. We've got Gene Wills. Gene is a friend of the show, and he's also responsible for any aerial footage that you may see in any of our programming. Gene is our local drone expert. It's kind of like a fishing boat. If you've got a friend that's got a boat, go out with his boat, throw him some gas money, and you don't have to worry about it. In the case of Gene and his drones and his equipment, much easier for us to secure his services and just pay Gene for that and not have to worry about upkeep and trying to figure out how to work a drone. Interestingly enough, right here on the campus of Florida Panhandle Technical College, coming up soon, there's going to be a brand new drone program starting up. Already a lot of buzz in the community about it, already a lot of interest. So if you're interested in drones in any way, shape, or form, this is one you're not going to want to miss, so stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back. As mentioned, our guest today is Gene Wills. Gene is our resident drone expert. He's also the operator of the aerial platforms from which we shoot some of the photo and video that are featured on some of our shows. Gene, thanks for taking the time today. We recently spent some time over at the Kate Smith Elementary School, got some cool footage over there. Have been wanting to get you into the studio for a while and try to talk about what are drones and all of the mystique that surrounds them instead of just showing the footage, and today we had that opportunity. So thanks for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me.
First of all, let's talk about the name. When somebody said drone initially, I thought of the Predator drone, that unmanned aerial platform that can carry bombs and all kinds of good stuff, can be used as an aerial surveillance platform. That is a true drone. What we're talking about today are quadcopters. Now, I know that the word drone is used interchangeably. Talk a little bit about the veracity or which way we should go on the nomenclature there.
Well, actually, they're considered unmanned aerial systems by the FAA, or in the case of the craft that I fly, small unmanned aerial systems, SUAS. Drone is what everybody calls them. They don't carry, the ones that I fly don't carry any Hellfire missiles, no lasers, they don't drop bombs, anything like that.
Yeah.
They just carry a sophisticated, small, miniaturized camera that takes some awesome videos and photographs.
What's amazing to us is that in just a very short period of time, these aerial platforms have gone from very expensive and sort of out of the reach of hobbyists or prosumers, like that we like to say, to a very affordable platform, and also the quality of the video that they'll shoot is commensurately better. Due in large part to the gimbal that you can get, sometimes as an accessory. In your case, you've got one that came with it. Let's start at the beginning. How did you get involved in working with these remote-controlled aircraft?
I wanted to shop down at the beach 2-3 years ago. Saw some helicopters, just plain helicopters, and I've got one here to demonstrate a little later. I felt like it might be a hobby I'd like to collect, and I collect all kinds of hobbies, raising bees and other things that I do on the side. I purchased one, got interested in it, got to looking up some of the history of it and what was out there, and ran across these quadcopters, and that really sparked my interest, the quads with the cameras. So I bought a fairly rudimentary system that had mostly a fixed camera that could be manually moved, or you could modify it with servo motors, which gets into a whole nother part of the hobby with the soldering and the electronics and everything when you get into the insides of them. But I was really interested in it from that point on, and I've upgraded to a much better aero platform from the same company. They seem to make probably one of the best ones. It's the one that you always see on the news that's getting in trouble someplace. That's the one that I fly.
And one of the reasons we wanted to sit down and talk about this is that there are so many myths, there's rumor, there's innuendo. At the end of the day, everybody knows somebody who's got a drone. They're becoming more prolific. As a matter of fact, interestingly, this past Christmas, December 2015, supposedly there was more money, more dollars spent on drones and associated drone accessories than any other higher ticket item. Don't know if that's true or not, but for the consumer industry, for the retail industry to acknowledge that the drones are playing such a large part in that revenue stream really struck us. Now, the first drone that you had, the first quadcopter, had a self-contained camera, relatively low resolution. What did that shoot? How many pixels was that?
That was 720, I believe it was.
So 720p video, which is typically what you see on YouTube or Facebook. Everything is boiled down to 720. So for our purposes, if somebody only is familiar with video as they see it online, chances are it's not going to mean much to them, because you can upload 1080p, 2.7K, 4K to YouTube. They're huge files, and many times there's a problem with uploading because of the bulk of the size, or a problem playing it because of bandwidth. But to start with, you started with a very affordable quadcopter for you at the time, although it was how much at that time?
I believe that one was under $500 for that outfit.
Still a bunch of money. And in that time, what was that, 4 or 5 years ago?
It's been about 3 years, I think I've had that one.
So even in 3 years, the dollar's worth a little bit less. So at that time, $500 was still more than it is today. So from there, you went to the DJI Phantom, and that was that had a mount for a GoPro. Talk about that one.
Well, actually, the first one was a DJI Phantom also. There was the way they numbered their series, there was a Phantom 1, there was a Phantom 1.1, there was a Phantom, and it went through several permutations to get to the ones that they have on the market now. The first one, I did a lot of modifications to it. I put a brushless gimbal on it, which it just holds your camera still as your craft moves around it, so it gives you a smoother video. I went through 2 generations of GoPros with that flying platform, and I still have the GoPro and still fly it with that, and the old small Wi-Fi camera. It's a puck-sized camera that I'll show you a little later.
Now, and let me interrupt you there. We're showing some video from one of those excursions now, and a little bit shaky. Even the gimbals were sort of rudimentary at that point, not nearly as sophisticated. No less expensive, because as things progress through these multiple generations, you get more value for your dollar. But nonetheless, we're showing a little footage again from that, and although it takes great video, a little bit shaky, a little bit less than stable. So you went from there to the DJI Phantom 3, is that correct? Which the most
correct.
Current model? Yeah. Okay, talk about that one a little bit.
Well, with the Phantom 3, they have 3 basic models. There's a standard, there's a advanced, and then there's the professional model. The big deal with it between the advanced and the professional model is only the resolution in the camera. It's basically the same flying platform. It's just a little higher resolution, 2.7K, and what you hear is 4K in movies and things.
We're showing some of that footage now. In your case, you've got the 2.7K camera with a gimbal, and the footage we're showing right now is not stabilized. It's not been put through an algorithm in Adobe After Effects or some similar program that will be used to smooth it out, and yet it is rock steady, and it's a great quality and a huge value, $950 some roughly for that unit. You spent a little bit more. You wanted a case, you wanted a couple extra batteries and that sort of thing. Talk a little bit about how much you appreciate where you're at now with that Phantom 3 versus the other one.
It's a very big difference. Some of my earlier videos, as you said, was really shaky and rocky. The camera would move with the craft as it moved. You've always got the propellers in the video that you have to crop out, which is a big advantage with the higher resolution, because you can crop that down and sort of zoom into different sections of the video and pull it and photographs and not get all of that extraneous outside. And the vibration, which in the hobby is called jello. The video will kind of have this wavy kind of look to it around the edges, and that's vibration and wind and things from the prop. But the better gimbals will do away with most of that.
The value here, obviously, if you're just a hobbyist and you just want something to play with, that's one thing. But in the real world, in our world, and from a video production point of view, this frees up a production company such as ours and allows us to get video footage that heretofore would have required renting a helicopter, again, a crane, and you're limited obviously physically by the size of that crane. But to be able to control, to be able to schedule at a moment's notice, literally, being able to shoot versus having to secure the services of a helicopter, and he tells you can come in 3 weeks from Tuesday, and then you're depending on that day to be good weather. In our case, we can wait till a good day and pull the drone out, and you're ready to go within minutes. Pretty strong. We're finding more and more use of these small drones, even in the movie industry. Obviously, you can go on up in quality. They have the octocopters, which have twice as many rotors, will actually accommodate 10 to 15 pounds of payload or more, and so they can bring up some of the more professional video cameras. But at the end of the day, frankly, from my perspective, for what we do, the machine you've got right now does everything and more than we could ask for today. Again, less than $1,000. Where do you see this going? I mean, obviously things are going to continue to improve. Prices will continue. You'll be able to get more for the dollar as we move forward. You keep up with the industry pretty well. What are we looking at down the road here in another year or two?
I think they're moving more and more towards autonomous flight. Like, you hear a lot on the news about Google and their autonomous cars. You get in it, the car drives you from point A to point B. You're there to take over if something's wrong. That's what they're moving to, from what I see. The drone that or the aircraft that I'm looking at is possibly the next one. Will probably be in about the $3,000 range. Step above that would be into about the $10,000 range, and that would have a FLIR camera on it, have the night vision, that kind of thing, and I'm looking to be able to use that in search and rescue and different other aspects.
But again, comparing that to literally $1 million for a helicopter, just for the helicopter. And now if you're going, the cameras that are on a helicopter are probably another $500,000 by themselves, plus an operator for it. So you're talking about the ability to do a whole lot with a relatively small budget. Of huge impact these days is what we're hearing in the news about the FAA, the Federal Aviation Association, talking about licensing, talking about registration of drones, talking about, in my world, I'm always looking at them trying to make a couple extra dollars in the way of taxes, but to try to make things a little more safe. Right now we have no-fly zones around airports. Let's talk about both of those things. Let's start off, though, with talking about the FAA regulations, and what would a hobbyist such as yourself have to do today to be legal as far as FAA was concerned?
Well, as of last month, just after Christmas, the FAA started a registration program for drones that are between a half a pound and 55 pounds. If it's over 55 pounds, you're talking about a different class of aircraft. But over a half a pound and up to about 55 pounds, you register it with the FAA. There's no charge for it as of right now. That's due to switch over about the mid to the end of January, I believe. And then it's a $5 charge. Right now, if you register your aircraft with them, they charge you $5 and then return it to you, just paying your card. All the information that they're really looking for is your name, address, and a contact phone number, some information. And that's basically going to be used to track down the owners of drones that do bad things with them. If the drone crashes or injures somebody or damages some property or something when it's collected, it'll have a hull number on it, basically like a tail number on an aircraft, and that will be in an area that's easily accessible.
The reason, or the way that registration works is if you've got one drone or 10, they all have the same number. So
That's
basically
right.
you're registering the owner versus the individual drone.
That's right.
Your drones all have the same number on them. Obviously, probably up till now, if somebody was overflying a parade or an assemblage of people, a festival, and the drone went down and crashed and obviously going to do some damage to something or somebody, easiest thing to do is just get in their car and drive away and say, what drone? And obviously that's what they're trying to address, is the liability, the personal responsibility for that drone. Now, the FAA and other organizations have insisted upon certain regulations about where, when, how high, and so forth that you can fly. Right now, thumbnail sketch, what are the regulations, again, in your world as a hobbyist?
The airspaces are divided up into different levels in this country, and you can fly these kind of aircraft up to a altitude of 400 feet, and you have to keep them within line of sight. That's the rules from the FAA. You don't fly them over a crowd or a venue where there are a lot of people. And I have some video out there that looks like I'm over a crowd, but actually I'm not. When I look back at the maps and the flying, it's well away from it. It's just a perspective of the lens makes it appear that you're right over it. But from the distance, and it's really not that close. But which is another good thing about these cameras and the lenses. They make things appear a little bit closer than they actually are.
We're showing some footage from the 2015 Chipley Christmas Parade. I think that's probably one of the instances you're referring to, that it appears that you're over the crowd. At the end of the day, all anybody wants is for everybody to be safe.
That's right.
And just as in anything else, there's some stupid people out there that do stupid things. There have been instances where there have been allegations of invasion of privacy, people trying to peek at the girl next door sunbathing in the backyard, looking in windows in downtown Manhattan. If you go on YouTube, you'll see a lot of these videos, and you can see why they want to have some kind of a handle on being able to track down the owner. That said, I would imagine, as in anything else, the majority of people who have these things, number one, they don't want to jeopardize a $1,000 investment. You're not going to do stupid things unless you've got money to burn. In both of our cases, we don't have the luxury of being in that boat.
No.
So we're definitely going to be cautious, and I applaud you for that. So we've talked about FAA regulations, obviously sensitivity in airport areas and also military installations.
That's
and
right.
Do they have a set rule?
You can't fly any closer than, you have to be outside of a 3-mile radius of any airstrip. And it's easy enough to find out if you're good to fly in the area you're in. There are a lot of apps online in the App Store and Apple App Store, what have you, that will tell you just where the airports are and how far you are outside of that boundary. But you want to stay completely away from airports. And if there's a situation where you're going to be flying near an airport, you can get around that by calling the tower or the airport and informing them that you're going to be flying in the area, see if it's okay so that they know that you're there. And they're fairly easy to work with from what I've heard. I haven't had the opportunity to work with an airport yet, but they're fairly easy.
I would imagine that would probably pertain to the smaller airports that don't have a lot of traffic.
That's right.
Obviously, if you're in O'Hare or LaGuardia in New York,
then you got a problem.
Yeah,
They're probably not going to let you fly around there.
Absolutely, and they're going to be very sensitive about it too, especially with homeland security issues and that sort of thing. So again, these came out at just the time, or got real popular at just the time that there was a sensitivity from a homeland security point of view of things going on that shouldn't go on. From a commercial application, we're seeing that the drone program, as it was militarized, is now taking a step towards the commercial or the domestic market with the downsizing in Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan. Some of that military application for drones, some of that equipment is coming home, and they are using it for all kinds of reasons. In the case of a prosumer model like yours, many people are using it for real estate surveys. It's a great sales tool to be able to show a piece of property. In our case, we're using it to document the demolition and now the reconstruction of the Washington County Courthouse in downtown Chipley, as well as the Kate Smith Elementary School. And we've got footage of both of those on the screen now. How cool is that to be able to visualize from a point of view that most people will never have an opportunity to see, especially when you're dealing with something like KMS Elementary, where it's such a huge facility. Even after you've been through it, you can't really fathom what you've got there until you get that 200 or 300 foot in the air view. I think you'd agree with that.
Yeah, I'm amazed at some of the video. I'm paying attention to the drone usually, and when I go back to review it, I see all kinds of things in there that I didn't see while I was actually flying, things going on the ground or around the buildings. But I try to fly that new courthouse construction site every several days, or when they're doing some major landmark. Like today, they're putting up the trusses, the roof trusses. And I was lucky enough to get some video of them putting a couple of the trusses up and the work involved with that. They're also laying some of the pipe for the drainage, and to show that progression and watch that on a daily basis has been really interesting.
As a matter of fact, our firm has been contracted by the Washington County to document just that. And over time, being able to sit down and watch that from the time that the judges and the Supreme Court in Florida decided that there was a problem, through the funding, through the demolition, through the new construction, and then ultimately we had the groundbreaking in there as well at some point, but ultimately the grand opening. And in the case of Kate Smith, we soon want to actually fly through the interior of the school.
I'm looking forward to that.
We've been able to work with Superintendent of School Joe Taylor and the construction supervisor over at the job itself. And they've both been gracious enough to allow us that access. I know you're salivating to be able to be able to fly through that school.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. It's going to be kind of a challenge because of the confines of the walls, the ceiling and floor and all. But I believe we can probably get some interesting video that you're not going to get any other way.
What other commercial applications are there a potential for right now? We talked a little bit about the aerial real estate. Obviously, in our case, we're documenting building construction and that sort of thing. What else is out there?
It's very helpful in agriculture, crop insurance. A farmer's got a large field, part of it's fertilized more than the other. He may have places where it needs more irrigation, and those things you just really can't see from sitting on top of a tractor. And to hire a helicopter or a fixed-wing aircraft to fly over and video that is very cost prohibitive. Where someone like myself could fly it in an hour or two over a couple of 100 acres of field, make multiple passes over it, and have video of every row in the field. And the farmer could look at it and tell the nature of his crops, how healthy they were. Roof inspections, any place that you would not want to put people in harm, or it would be cost prohibitive to get a helicopter or some other type of equipment to view that area. You can get up close and personal with damage to roofs and large buildings, those kind of things, without endangering the people. So,
at one time, our largest client as for our public relations firm was a ranch in Mexico. And on one occasion, I was down there for 5 or 6 weeks, and we wanted to get some aerial video footage. And so a local orphanage, the pastor that ran that had a Cessna, and so he took the door off on my side. He roped me into the seat. I hung out the plane with one of my big video cameras. In today's world, we could simply go up 400, 500, 600 feet and get that same point of view, that same perspective, with absolutely no muss and fuss, and a whole lot less danger involved. I could go back to
a situation like that here in Washington County back a few years ago. We had a large gathering of baseball teams. I think it was with Dixie Youth Baseball that was held here. And before that, I flew around all of the schools in a helicopter and hung out with a digital 35 millimeter camera and hung out the window and took photographs of all of the schools. No video, just still photographs of everything, all of the ball fields in the county and everything. Now I could do that for just a fraction of the cost and a lot less time with this drone without getting in a helicopter.
And at your convenience, not somebody else's. We appreciate you taking the time. Over time, our viewers are going to get a chance to see much more of this footage. And I think that what's going to be interesting is to see how the application morphs, how we discover more and more opportunities to use the camera platform to shoot video. One thing, and we're showing this right now at the Christmas festival, is you were only about head high off the ground, but you shot a horizontal shot. And again, we're showing that right now of the gazebo at the Christmas festival at the old train station in downtown Chipley. That's one that ordinarily they would have had to set up tracks. You would have done what's called a dolly shot, or you could have done it with a cage with a handheld camera, and you still would have had the jitter. In your case, this is cinematic. It's gorgeous, and it shows the whole story. You see the people inside the lighted area. You see Santa Claus in the gazebo, all of the lights, all of the pageantry that goes along with that specific event. Just using it, even at ground level as a platform, just off the ground, is huge. And again, you don't think of that as being something that requires an unmanned aircraft, but what a great job it does.
Yeah, that video, you can take video that will move in a manner that you would have to have a lot of equipment set up and planned out and mapped.
Gene, thanks for being here today. I think that this has sort of scratched the surface. I'm anxious to get you back again at some point. Maybe we can go into some more detail, show some more cool footage. But thanks for being here. Thanks for opening the door into this world. For the regular viewers of the show, you've certainly seen a lot of the footage that Gene is producing. The Washington County Courthouse, the Chipley Christmas Parade, the Kate Smith Elementary School. Really cool stuff that you would not be able to get without a drone. And keep your eyes open. You can go to fptc.edu, the technical college website. Keep up with what they're offering. We'll certainly let you know on this show as soon as that drone program is open and available. You expressed that you might even wouldn't mind sitting in on that. I would like to get you involved as an instructor.
Oh, yeah. I would be interested in that.
Thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
Our guest today has been Gene Wills. We've been talking about drones. We'll be right back.